HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we were continuing with the Masechet Betzah Daf Amud Aleph 4a1. The Gemara says that we were looking at it separately. If you remember, we were talking about that if a person comes and they have a litra ksiot, right? Litra ksiot is a litra of truma of te'enim miyubashot, which means of dried figs. Shederasa al pi igul, right? That what happened was that they came and they started trampling upon them. Okay, but they didn't know which one they did it on, right? Or it says over here, al pi chavit, and they didn't know which on top of chavit they did it on, or al pi kaveret, they didn't know which kaveret they did it on. Right, the kaveret is a sal, is a basket. So Rabbi Meir says, right, that this is actually a machloket tanaim between Rabbi Eliezer. The Rabbi Eliezer says that we look at the litra of te'anim, right, which are going to be on the top, ki'ilu hem prudot, as if it's going to be separate. Okay, so therefore, and then the tachtonot, right, they look at it, ma'alot et elionot, they're going to bring up the top ones. Rabbi Yoshua says, im yesha mea pumin, if we have 100, right, pumin, ya'alu, so then it's going to be mivatel the litra of turma v'imlav, and if not, right, the pumin are going to be prohibited. The pumim are the ksiot which are on top of the kelim, right? The shulaim bat, the ones which are on the bottom of the bucket of this barrel, is going to be permitted, right? Why? Because it's not part of the safek. The safek is only going to be on the top ones. Rabbi Yehuda says that this was a machloka between Rabbi Eliezer, right, and Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Eliezer, if you have 100 pumin of chulin, ya'alu, it's going to be mivatel. And if not, the pumim are going to be asurim and the shulaim are going to be mutarin. Rabbi Yoshua says, even if you're going to have there 300 pumin, 300 pumin, lo ya'alu, it's not going to help. He says, why? Because it's going to be davar chashuv. Remember, anything which is important is not going to be batel, afilu be'elef. Okay? Continuing. Derasa be'igul. Right? If they're going to come and they're going to start trampling Gemara. The Gemara says, Derasa be'igul, if you came and you trampled upon this igul, and you don't know which one you did it on, according to everybody, it's going to be oleh. Why? Because it's going to be batel. So says the Gemara, ledivra kol, you're going to say it's according to everybody. Hainu plaktai. I thought that they said that was just a machlok between them. So Rav Papa says, this is what it means to say. Derasa be'igul, v'enu dea be'ezeh makom igul. If you did a derisa with this igul and you don't know which one you did it in, right? Derasa, right? You don't know which one you did it. Whether it's to the north or to the south. The divrei kol ya'alu. According to everybody, it's going to be oleh. Okay, so says the Gemara, Ravashi comes and he says, Leolam safek yom tov safek chol. Really, behemet, what we're dealing with is a safek asura. It's talking about a beitzah, which was born, and I have a safek. I don't know if it was born on yom tov or if it was born during the weekday. And therefore, that's why it's going to be a sur. So according to this, now we're changing everything now. Right now we're saying that no, that it's not that for sure was born on Yom Tov, and then what's the reason? No, where Karavashi comes and he says, really, the deen of Sfeika Asur is a Beitzah, which the Safek, whether it was born on Yom Tov or on, right, or on Chol. So therefore, that's why it's Sfeika Asur. The Havi Davar Sheshumatirim is Davar Sheshumatirim. The Chol Davar Sheshumatirim, Filu the Rabbanan lo batil. Even if it's going to be the Nisud Rabbanan, it's not going to be Bateh. Okay? Tanya, we learned in a Braita. Acherim Omrim. Acharim come and they say, yeah? So Tanya, we learned in a Braita. Acherim omrim mishum Rabbi Eliezer. Other people say the name of Rabbi Eliezer. Beitzah te'achel hi ve'ima. So some people actually learned in the Braita that in the Braita it says, in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, that the Beitzah could be eaten, it and its mother. Okay? That means also the mother could be eaten. Not only just the Beitzah, also the mother. So my skin, what are we dealing with? If you're going to tell me we're talking about a tarnegolet omed el achila that is going to be for eating, so pshita, even so, then obviously the mother is going to be permitted because it's for eating, and also the beitzah. But the tarnegolet betzim, obviously we're talking about a tarnegolet which is for beitzim. Hivi masura, so he said in its mother is going to be a surah, right? So Amar Bizera says Bizera teachel agavima. That's what it means. You could eat it with the mother, which means really be'emet you could only eat the mother, right? But once. Right? Only if you eat the mother on Yom Tov, then you're allowed to eat the Beitzah. But if you don't eat the mother, then you're not allowed to eat the Beitzah. Okay? So says the Gemara, Hey Chidami, what is the case? Amar Abaya comes and he said, Don shelekacha stam. So you took it, you purchased tarnegolet stam, nishchata, right? And then what happened was you slaughtered it. So huvrira de la achila. So now the fact that you slaughtered it, you know now when you bought it, it was stam. You don't know what it was for. But now that you did shechita, obviously you know what the reason was. The second that you did shechita, you know what the reason is for, but now.
You didn't know whether it was.
Yeah, you didn't know whether it's going to be whether it's going to be lachila or the gadel betzim, right? The two. So says the Gemara, nishchata huvrara de lachila umedet. Lo nishchata. If it wasn't done shechita, huvrara. So then it's already known legadel betzim umedet that it's going to be legadel betzim. Rav Mari comes and he says, guzma ktani. The Beitzah behemet is talking about now a guzma. What does it mean guzma? A person that's adding on to something that you don't need. When it says mutar lechol kol, also the Tanagol, also the Beitzah. The Tanya we learned on Beitzah. Acherim omrim, other people say, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, Beitzah teachel hi beimna ve'efroach uklipato. So here it says in the Beitzah mefurash, teachel he, the Beitzah, the mother. Sorry, he is the Beitzah. Ima is the mother. Efroach is a check. Uklipato. My klipato. What does it mean now? The klipa. You're going to tell me klipa the mamash. Klipa, but why you could eat a klipa? When was the last time you saw somebody coming and eating a klipa of the Beitzah? Yeah, you ever see eggshells? Some people they walk on eggshells all the way, but I've never seen people eat eggshells. Chocolate, yeah, chocolate covered. Ella, but rather, right? Efroach the klipato. We're talking about the efroach and the klipa. So until here, where it's saying that there's no machloka between Rabbanan and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Ela heicha diyatza la'avir ha'olam. Only if it's going to come out from that to la'avir ha'olam. Aval heicha de lo yatza la'avir ha'olam. If it didn't come out to that la'avir ha'olam, lo plige. So then there's not going to be a machloket. Okay? Ela afroach uklipato guzma. But rather the afroach and the klipa is going to be a guzma. Hachana misoto here. Teachel hi ve'ima guzma. It's also going to be a guzma, which means it's an extra thing just to strengthen its words. Okay? Fine. Nekuda. Now we're going to start again. Okay? Itma. It was stated. Shabbat Yom Tov. Shabbat and Yom Tov that comes out on Sunday. So you have Shabbat and Sunday. Sunday is Yom Tov. Rav says, Nolda bezeh, asura bezeh. If it was born on Shabbat, it's asura in Yom Tov. Rabbi Yochanan says, if it was born on Shabbat, it's permitted in Yom Tov. Okay? And the same thing would happen the opposite way. That if Yom Tov came out on Friday. So there's a machloka. One more time. Shabbat and Yom Tov or Yom Tov and Shabbat, whichever one that you want. I mean, it's either Yom Tov is on Sunday or Friday, whichever one. But it's 2 days in a row. Okay? You have a Beitzah which is born on one, and then you have another. Says the Gemara, according to one opinion, it's a surah. Nolda bezeh, asura bezeh. According to Rabbi Yochanan, muteret bezeh. The next day. Okay? So Neima Kasamar Rav, why don't we just say that Rav holds Kiddusha Achati? That's all one Kiddusha. So therefore, if you're going to tell me it's all one Kiddusha, that's why we said that if it's going to be one Kiddusha, right, it's all one entity in itself. Okay? The Amar Rav comes and he says, Halacha karba zekenim. The halacha is like the 4 zekenim. Valiba de Rabbi Eliezer, and according to Rabbi Eliezer, the Amar that he says, right, shte kedushote. That there's going to be 2 different Kiddushot. Okay? But here we're talking about Achana of Rabba. We're talking about Ravit le Achana de Rabba. Rav holds that we need Achana of Rabba. Remember, Rabba was the one that says that we have the problem of Achana. And therefore, Rav says that the Beitzah is going to be prohibited also on the second day. Rabbi Yochanan let le Achana de Rabba. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says that we do not hold of this Achana of Rabba. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan says that since you don't have a problem of Achana, so you're allowed to eat it on the second day. That's a shita of Rabbi Yochanan. So says the Gemara, Ketanai. It's a machlok Ketanai. Nolda b'Shabbat, if it's going to be Nolda b'Shabbat, te'achel b'Yom Tov, it's going to be eaten on Yom Tov. B'Yom Tov, it could be eaten on Shabbat. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, says Rabbi Yehuda, and the name of Rabbi Eliezer, Adani machlok, it's still machlok. Bet Shammai says te'achel, but Hillel omrim lo te'achel. So it comes out, it's a machlok Tanaim, not just a Monaim. Because before it was a Monaim between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Now we're talking about, no, it's a machlok Tanaim already. We're going up a level. Right? That it's not only just of a Monaim. Monaim were the lower levels, meaning later on in generations, rabbis. Tanaim is a higher level from the Mishnah, right? The Monaim is Gemara. Okay, so it's like, meaning that basically, let's say we two were arguing on Halacha, we're going to say, what are you guys arguing about? They already argued about it. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, it was between this rabbi and that rabbi. And say, what are you guys arguing about? Even 500 years ago, it was between this rabbi and, it continues going. That's the way it is.
Is that the special case where one of the 2 Yom Tovim is Shabbat, or is that true for any 2 Yom Tov?
One of them is a Shabbat and then Yom Tov. Shabbat and Yom Tov.
So it's not applicable.
Yeah, no, it's Yom Tov, no. Okay. Next, Ushpezechine de Ravada Barava. The Balach Sani of Ravada Barava, Havulu Hanach Beitzim Yom Tov Shabbat. He had Beitzim that were Noldu Bi Yom Tov that came out on Erev Shabbat. So he wanted to eat it on Shabbat. So Ata Lekameh. Sorry. He came in front of Ravada Barava and he said, Zamaleh, he comes and he says, What's the deal? Am I allowed to be tzoleh today on Yom Tov and then eat it tomorrow? Meaning he wants to be tzoleh the Beitzah. He wants to roast the eggs. Now on Shabbat you can't roast eggs. It's a food to cook. So he wants to roast it on Yom Tov and then he wants to eat it on Shabbat. So Amalei comes and he tells him, what do you think? So Rav Rabbi Yochanan, whenever we have a machlok between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, we pass him like Rabbi Yochanan. So afilu Rabbi Yochanan lo kashari ele legoma. Even Rabbi Yochanan said that you're allowed to eat it on the second day, legoma, to eat it that way, right? Aval biyomeh, but in the same day, he didn't touch you, he didn't even let you to move it. So if you can't even move it, how are you going to start roasting it on Yom Tov? One more time, Yom Tov Shabbat. It was born on Yom Tov. He wants to eat it on Shabbat now, but he doesn't want to eat it just raw egg. Just start he wants to roast it. So can he roast it or not? So says the Gemara, halacha Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan. But even Rabbi Yochanan that permitted it, Rabbi Yochanan only permitted legoma to eat it the way that it is. But on the same day, it's mukse, so you can't even do anything with it.
You assume that he did the tafshilin before.
Tanya, we learned on the right. It says whether it's a Beitzah which was born on Shabbat or a Beitzah which was born on Yom Tov, the same day you're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to be mechasot at a kli or lismoch kriyamita. Right? The ruvet of shilin takes away from the problem of hachana. You understand? That takes away the problem of hachana. Here it's not a problem with hachana. Here the problem is because of the mukse, right? That you can't even do anything with it. Okay? So says the Gemara, another very similar case. Whether it was going to be the balachsani of Rav Papa, or some people said just a person came in front of Rav Papa, right? He had beitzim from Shabbat to Yom Tov. So he came in front of him and he said, can we eat it tomorrow? He says, right? Go the next day, and then I'm going to answer you. Because Rav was not ma'amid meterugeman in front of him, lidrosh barabim. From Yom Tov to its friends, mishum shichrut, because of shichrut, which means he wouldn't put a meturgiman in front of him. Why? From the time that he did Yom Tov, because once he ate Yom Tov until the next day, asur lehorot Torah, you're not allowed to be paskening halacha. The second you start drinking, that's it. That's why I always tell you this. Rav Zimmerman, right? He used to be, now he's the head of, I think, Kosher Federation of London. But before, he was the rabbi of Beitzah. I remember when he came to the Rotor, he went and he told us that he never drinks, right, wine. Even for a regular kiddush, always grape juice. Why? Because usually you would drink a ravit. The second you drink a ravit of wine, you can't paskin. He's a rav of a city. He has to be paskening all the time. And at any moment, somebody can knock on the door and then what? He's going to say, listen, I'm very sorry, but I can't go paskin now because I drank wine. I drank a ravit. That's it. So because of that, he never, right? That's what he says here. Mishum shichrut. Look inside. Well, yeah. Look inside. Then afterwards tell you, yeah. No, it doesn't matter. It's according to halacha. What do you care? Are you allowed to say Amidah after drinking a ravit of wine?
Are you allowed to say
Amidah? Shulchan Aruch mefurash. Don't make me throw your coffee on your face. Yeah? What does Shulchan Aruch say?
No.
You're not allowed to. Does the Shulchan Aruch make a difference? If it's a $10 bottle of wine, then no. But if it's like a den or I don't know what, $150, then yeah. For the huh? That's why you always say mincha. You always do mincha before Purim.
No, he had to be
No, but even on Purim, he doesn't drink wine. He never. He's got a job. His job is 24/7. Yeah. By the way, it's only the mitzvah to drink wine on Purim. It's only the mitzvah. According to everybody, it's not like if a person didn't drink a thing on Purim, he says, "Oh, Purim." Never think that's innocent. The Rav lo muki amora yilave, because Rav did not put it in the Torah from Yom Tov to Israel. Mishum shichu, because getting drunk. Yatal machar, when he came the next day, Amalei, he went and he told to Rav Papa, Daled Amubet, right? 4b, right? Iku hashta, right? If I was here, ilu ayiti morelecha etmol, if I would have passed to you yesterday, ishtalai, I would have forgotten and I would have made a mistake. The amnilach, and some people say, Rav Yochanan, lachak Rav Yochanan. Hamar Rav says, hilchata kveted the Rav bani tlat. The halacha is like Rav and 3 halachot. Ben lekula ben lechum, whether it's chum or lekula. So you see from here, the halacha in this case was not like Rabbi Yochanan. The halacha was like Rav, and I would have made a mistake. Why? Because if he already did, then would have been involved. Right? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, it seems shenashru min hadekel b'Shabbat asur la'asikam yom tov. Right? He comes and he says like this. He says, it seemed that all of a sudden now that they fell off from the dekel on Shabbat, that means they broke off the dekel on Shabbat, you're not allowed to use them on Yom Tov the next day as firewood. Okay, so you have a tree, wood fell down, you cannot use that wood now during Yom Tov to use it as okay?
How do you know if it fell again?
What?
How do you know if it fell on...
No, you saw it. On Shabbat, it's up here, all of a sudden it falls down on Shabbat. The next day on Yom Tov, I cannot use it as firewood, right? Then it says, Ve'al teshiveni Beitzah, right? Ve'al teshiveni Beitzah. What does that mean? Don't ask on me that I permitted the Beitzah. My time on Beitzah, mishum b'yom nami chaziguma. Because even on the same day, right, you could still eat it raw the way that it is. Ve'lo kashani le'ad lemachar, and it's not going to be permitted to eat it until the next day. Made the idea in order that people should know the bat yom asura, that the same day it's going to be prohibited. It seemed the wood, which is not fitting for the same day. If you're going to permit it for the next day, they're going to say, right, in the same day, it's still going to be permitted. It's more, and yesterday, Mishum Shabbatu. It's because of Shabbat, the lo chazul hasaka, that it's not fitting for hasaka. Okay? Fine. Amar of Matna. Matna says, it seems shenashum min hadekel letoch hatanur yom tov. Right? Wood, which falls out from the dekel on into the tanur on yom tov. Marbe alehem etzim muchanim masiken. All you have to do is just add on more, and then you could use it. So imagine that it fell mamash into the pile of the medura. So now it's perfect for me. What do I just do? Just add a little bit more wood, and now I'm allowed to use it. So ask the Gemara, but when you're turning the wood, you know, when you do wood, you have to turn it around. So you're being mapech in something of isur, because those etzim were isur. You just add it on, and then now you're using it. So answers the Gemara, no, but since the majority is of eter, that means the majority of the wood is of isur eter, is the majority of eter. Huh?
You're like to shake the wood.
Yeah, for sure.
The wood of the fire.
Of course, why not? Yeah. You're allowed to add on. You're allowed to add on to a fire. You're not allowed to make a new fire. You're allowed to add on to a fire. So if I have a stove, I could pick up the flame, right? There's no difference between making the flame bigger and turning the wood and making the wood. You understand? How do they do barbecues? Yeah, as long as you had an existing light, there's no problem. Yeah,
but you can add chocolate.
Yeah, you could add. There's no problem.
The chocolate doesn't fall in.
No, you could add. No, but here we're talking about the problem of muktzeh. Charcoal wouldn't have been muktzeh if you already prepared it for that. Here, though, we're talking about the problem of muktzeh. So ask the Gemara, we have a general rule that you're not allowed to vatel an isur. Meaning, if something's already a sur, you can vatel. So, for example, let's say you're a cleaner, right? She likes to get at you. So, what did she do? She came and she started pouring a little bit of milk into your cholent. Yeah, and now you don't have 60 times keneged. So now you like the milk in the cholent. So what do you want to do? You want to add on heter. Now you have 60 times. Now it's permitted. Asur levatel isur lechatchila. Asur, you're not allowed to. So says the Gemara, here you're being vatel isur lechatchila. Utnan em vatel isur lechatchila. And says the Gemara, hanemi lebedoraita. In a doraita, you're not allowed to be vatel isur lechatchila. But bedrabanan, you are allowed to be vatel isur lechatchila. Okay? Ravashi Damar, and according to Ravashi that he says, but according to Ravashi that he says that anything which is going to be the Vashi Shlomatin, right? He comes and he says anything which is going to be the Vashi Shlomatin, even in the Rabbanan, right? It's not going to be Vatel. What are you going to say? Why are you going to permit this wood? At the end of the day, it's Mukse, which is the Vashi Shlomatin. The Vashi Shlomatin, we said, was not going to be Vatel. If it's the Vashi Shlomatin, it's not going to be Vatel. So answers the Gemara, Hanimilu, one of these words, if you see the Yisur, amen. If you see the Yisur the way that it is, if you see the Yisur the way that it is, then you're right. But the Yisur gets burnt, gets consumed. So it gets out of this world. So once it gets out of this world, it's going to be batel. That means if you see it, it's not going to be batel. But if you don't see it, then it's not going to be batel. Okay? Itma, it was stated. Shnei yamim tovim shel galuyot. When you have 2 days of Yom Tov of galuyot, like here, Chutz Haaretz, so if 2 days of Yom Tov, Rav says, if it's born on one, it's permitted in the second day. Ravasi says, it's a sur. So machloket, again, for us, let's say not Rosh Hashanah, forget Rosh Hashanah. Pesach, Sukkot, 2 days of Yom Tov, born on one, is it going to be permitted on the other one or not? Machloket, between Rav and Ravasi. Says the Gemara, Lema kasavar Ravasi Kidusha Achati. Whereas in Ravasi says it's one Kidusha. If it's one Kidusha, the 2 days, it's born on one, prohibited on the other. And Ravasi, right? Lema kasavar Ravasi Kidusha Achati. So says the Gemara, Ravasi mavdir miyom hatav lechavre. What are you talking about? How could you tell me it's Kidusha Achat if you would make Havdalah between one and the other? Meaning he would come and make a Havdalah between one day of Yom Tov and another day of Yom Tov to show you that it's not Kidusha Achat. No, we don't do that. But Ki'ilu that he was showing that it's not Kidusha Achat. So don't tell me he's holding of one Kidusha. So answers the Gemara, Ravasi sapukim safkele. Ravasi had a doubt. Therefore, that's why he went to Chumra on both. Meaning like this. He held maybe it's going to be Kidusha Achat, and therefore if it's going to be born on one, it's a sur on the other. But mitzad sheni, maybe it's going to be considered two kiddushot, so therefore you used to do havdalah between one another in order not to be making also another problem. So he used to go chumrah on both. It says here, why did he do that? Because according to him, the yom sheni was chol gamur mi'ikaradin. So therefore, according to that's why he did it in this way. Okay. Anyway, you can't do the melacha. You're going chumrah for both. It's chumrah for both. Okay.
Just very quickly.
Amar
is for us, right? Sorry.
So it says the Gemara like this, yeah? Says the Gemara, Amar Abaya comes and he says, right? He says, Amar Rabbi Zera, Kivateh de Rabbi Asid Mistabra. It's more logical to say like Rabbi Asid. Because nowadays we do have a calendar, and we still do 2 days. So therefore, it's much more mistaber to say that Ravasi, that the Beitzah is going to be a surah, because even though now we know when Rosh Chodesh is, and we know what's going on, still we're going to say that it's going to be a surah. Okay? So we still do 2 days of Yom Tov. So Amar Abai comes and he says, it's more mistaber to say like Rav, that since they didn't say that it was to do 2 days v'torah vadai, but rather they were machmid on the bnei galuyot, so therefore it should be muteret mitzad mimarashach on the second day. The Tanam we learned on Mishan Rosh Hashanah. But Ishona you must see masuot, right? At the beginning, do you know that they used to light, right? Lapidim, they used to light flames on top of the mountains as a siman. When did they do it? But then the kutim came, and they made to show when it was Rosh Chodesh. And then what happened was the kutim came, and they started making problems for us. So itkinu, so then they instituted no more making flames anymore. But then the kutim used to come up and do flames, and then everyone, it used to mess everything up. But then everyone realized the sign, and they used to mess everything up. So itkinu, they instituted shluchin yotzim, that the shluchin would come out, right? So he comes and he says, right? V'ilu batlu kutim right? V'ilu batlu kutim of din chad. Now, if it was going to be mavatel, what they would do 1 day. And what? If the shliach would come, they would do 1 day. So it's muchach from here that the takamana was to do 2 days, like one long day. So therefore, that's what we're saying. We're saying we do 2 days in chutzaretz, even though it's like 1 day. But now that we know about the kviyat diarcha, right? My time I didn't tell you. So what do we do 2 days? And so the Gemara mishum the shalchu mitam, as they sent from there. Be very careful of doing 2 days of Yom Tov. Sometimes it can happen that the Malchut HaGezerah, they're going to come and start telling us that we can't do Torah, we can't do, and then we're going to forget how to do the leap years and how to do all these things. And then we're going to come to a kalkala, we're going to lose out on this. Okay, so Itman. So because of that, we always do 2 days the Gemara. So now says the Gemara, Itman, it was stated, Shnei Yamim Tovim Shel Rosh Hashanah, the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, Rav Shmuel and Rav Shmuel both say, Nolda Bezeh Surah Bezeh. If it was born on one, it's going to be prohibited in the other one. The Tanam was learned in the Mishnah, but Rishonah Yom Mekablin Edut HaChodesh Kol Hayom. At the beginning, they used to accept Edut HaChodesh the entire day, right, on the 30th of Rosh, right, in Yom HaShloshim in Rosh Chodesh Elul. That means on the 30th day from Rosh Chodesh Elul. Now, if the Edim came until the end of the day, they used to make it holy, and then it would become Rosh Hashanah, the Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah. And they wouldn't do melacha from the night before, right? But maybe Edim would come the next day. All of a sudden, the Edim, it took them longer to come. Right? Because they always used to come at the end of the time of the Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim. And once they came until it was already nighttime. So once it happened that they came and he kalkelu al-vim b'shir, and then the vim, they started making a mistake because they didn't know, right, Hamud Aleph, they didn't know which shir, by which shirah to come and to start singing. So itkinu, so they went and they answered to the Shurim Mekablim et Edim and Mincha, that they could only accept the Edim until the Mincha. But if they already, the Edim came afterwards, after the Mincha Mala, Yom Kodesh Umachar Kodesh, then they do both days Kodesh. And then we continue with Hashem tomorrow.